What's up, y'all? Welcome back to a bong hit transplant. I'm your host, a sesame seed bagel.
Ah, fuck. Oh. Still working out the kinks on that.
What's up, family? Welcome back to actually making a follow-up video not an entire year later. In addition to being completely uncharacteristically productive, this video marks the beginning of the October upload schedule. 3 whole videos in the month of October, baby, yeehaw. Unless you're watching it early on Patreon. Cheap plug. Anyway, this video was supposed to be something else, but card is subject to change. If you are unaware, I recently released a video about the hip-hop group Injury Reserve. And in that video, I gave a general overview of the group, their history, their discography, and that video released when it did because they had a new album coming out called By the Time I Get to Phoenix. And in that video, I talked about it very passively, because I wanted the video to come out in time for the album's release. So I only talked about the 2 singles that were released previously, Knees and Superman That. So I made the video, scheduled to upload, you know how YouTube works. But I didn't expect exactly how much I'd have to say about By the Time I Get to Phoenix. I don't think anyone really did. So I don't know how long this is going to be, but consider this an installment of the unofficially dubbed series, Jake talks about an album that he enjoys. So without further ado, let's talk about By the Time I Get to Phoenix. So, the album released, and it was fucking insane. What is this, Jake? I do not know. It's very difficult even describing what this album is, so let's have people do it for me. So, I asked people on my community tab, review Injury Reserve's new album in 4 words. Quote, for a video. And we got some comments, we should check them out. Literally a fucking masterpiece. Oh boy, big praise, big praise. Absolutely spectacular, 5G towers, it's pretty good. Haunting, abstract, manic, singular? Like not plural. Dystopian, outlandish, haunting, beautiful. Yeah, a lot of weird words that you wouldn't put on a hip hop album, I guess. Now my knees hurt. That's a pretty good one. Very funkalicious indeed. Well, I don't know about funkalicious. I mean, it's pretty good. I don't even know what the fuck that was. What the fuck? $8 bill exists? Should make any fucking sense. A Light 6 Fantano. It was pretty funny. I'll give that a thumbs up. A very bittersweet goodbye. Very, very beautifully said. A new type of experimental. I like that one. That one's a pretty good one. Ugh. Mindfuck but great. Yeah. Ooh, this one's a fucking good one. Post nut clarity. I'll heart that one. I'll love that one. Weird rock. Sure, dude. Yeah. Alright, we got a funny guy down here. Didn't listen to it. Then why the fuck are you reviewing it? And finally, Ooga Booga, Oonga Boonga. We have some modern day poets in chat here. Personally, I've become infatuated with this thing. I've listened to it countless times. I bought the limited edition Smoke vinyl, and I'm going to see them live, so it was okay, 6 out of 10. Nah, this shit was fucking incredible. Easily on my list for album of the year. And as I say these words, I'm still confused about how this record was created and released. I dubbed this record Fugue Rap because it sounds like everything and nothing at the exact same time. It's like Injury Reserve forgot what kind of music they made. Let's look at a handy dandy rate your music to try and figure out the genres to this fucking thing. Experimental hip hop, glitch hop, experimental, glitch abstract hip hop, experimental rock, sound collage, neo-psychedelia? Industrial hip-hop? What? Disorient, sampling, dark, chaotic, apocalyptic, dense, ominous, eclectic, noisy, melodic? What the fuck? Infernal? I think people are just confused as I am on what the fuck this is. I think the term post-rap is actually a pretty good descriptor of what this album is. It's like close enough to hip-hop, but there's so much other shit drowning it, so it's not actually hip-hop. If Richie T wasn't on this record, I'd genuinely be very interested to see what people would categorize this record as. But I love this thing, and this mixtures of genres just sounds so alien to me. I'm not trying to hype this shit up. Yes, I am. But it's honestly something that you need to hear to believe. Before we get into the actual track list of it, if you like a nice comprehensive guide of everything leading up to By the Time I Get to Phoenix, if you haven't plugged it already, check out my first Injury Reserve video where I talk about the origins of the group and all things nice like that. Man, so much more happens when you record in the day. That's like the 3rd fucking semi-truck that's passed me. Alright, let's fucking dissect this thing. The album opens with the track Outside. It sets a great pace and feel for the next 40 minutes. Now, for the first song off this hip-hop album, there isn't an 808 or hi-hat in sight. If you didn't tell me this was an Injury Reserve album, I'd guess this was a lost song off the Fantastic Planet soundtrack. Glitching textures and weird schizophrenic spoken word intro. This song and a lot of the songs off this seem like transcribed abstract poetry. It's more akin to an experimental synth-pop song than a rap song. It's disorienting and bizarre. The group takes almost a math rock approach to things, where sounds aren't always on sync and the vocals are intentionally offbeat. Like a conceptual Blueface. Sorry, a more conceptual Blueface. Halfway through this track, these alien synths come into the mix with this train-like percussion. It sounds fucking weird on paper, just saying it. So imagine what it's like to actually listen to it. A crazy intro to the album, and with it being on the longer side, it's like the opening credits to an experimental art film. Next we get to one of the best songs off the album, Superman That. One of 2 singles that came out prior to the album's release. I talked about it in the original video, so my thoughts pretty much stand in that department. So watch that if you haven't already. And the song, it's a banger and a half, honestly. Probably one of the only songs here that could be defined as a banger, I guess. Then we come to the second best track off this record, SS San Francisco, featuring Z Loopers. The sound is intimidating, it's like a scene from a Texas standoff. Richie sounds just demented with these glitching effects on his voice, and the bass riff just adds to this tension. I think the guest verse does what it needs to do, you know, not bad by any means, but not too shabby. The cadence was on point, I'll give him that much. This song is probably my second recommendation off this record, because goddamn, this shit is a slapperoonie. Now to this point, I was convinced this was going to be the greatest album I have ever heard in my entire life. Literally the first 3 songs were actually amazing. Then we get to Footwork in a Forest Fire. When I started listening to this, I thought it was where they went a bit overboard in the experimental department. But upon re-listening to this a few times, it evolved into just being okay. I think one of the few tracks on here that's just okay to me. Then we transition into the chilling Ground Zero, sounding like they're rapping over an experimental drone album. More offbeat rapping here, but it almost works because the instrumental is so disorienting. From the lyrics here, the song seems to be describing what it's like to be a doctor in the heart of the pandemic era. Confusing, scary, disorienting. It seems like you're completely dissociated with your surroundings and you're just coming to in a foreign place. Essentially, this is what a headache sounds like. Next we get to another instance of almost going overboard, Smoke Don't Clear. This insane screaming bass and some very slowed down breakbeat percussion is just absolutely insane. I saw this comment someone made on one of my videos I made about death grips, but I think it works here too. This is what drugs sound like. I can't believe I'm this far in and this is the first time I mentioned death grips. From that we transition into another one of my favorite songs, Top Picks for You. You know the artist is doing something special when you can't tell what the fuck the instrument that made the lead is. This is an extremely emotional song on the record, in the sound department and in the message. This is the soul-crushing message I was bracing myself knowing the era that this album was made in. Richie is wearing his heart on his sleeve and essentially having a musical therapy session, explicitly talking about what life is like now that Groggs has passed away, and being constantly reminded of him through the social media age, constantly seeing his picture and constantly remembering. This is an extremely hard listen, but so beautiful. I really love this song. Next we come to Wild Wild West, one of the last quote-unquote bangers on the track list. More hard guitar beats, but this isn't as cohesive as SS San Fran. But it gives off an entirely different vibe. It acts like a bomb siren for what's to come. And the second part here is like they gave the siren steroids. This is what the internet sounds like essentially. And I would be doing a world of disservice if I did not mention 5G, we putting towers up everywhere. 3 more songs to go after this point, and I think everyone knew this was going to be rough when they saw it was called Postpartum. Another one of the more accessible off this, instrumental wise, not so much lyrical content. Their instrumental sounds like a skull-fucked version of a jazz rap song, something off of Live from the Dentist Office or Floss, but distorted and manipulated. And vocally, I sound like a broken record at this point, but knowing the backstory, this track hits like a freight train. Another absolutely amazing song off this absolutely amazing record. Now we come to the second of the singles released for this album, Knees. And once again, my feelings remain pretty much the same as my other Injury Reserve video. This is probably the most math rock song off here, not just because they sampled Black Midi, but the drummer Morgan Simpson played drums on the song. This is just great sample use, great lyrics, you really can't go wrong with this song. And now we get to the final track on the album, By Storm. This song actually takes a different vibe than the rest of the tracks off this, a direction I wasn't expecting them going in, but one that I just loved. By Storm sounds almost triumphant, with these soaring guitar leads sampled from Brian Eno and these breakbeat drums. Richie gives one final impassioned performance, and the album ends on something of a high note, with the phrase, "The show must go on," echoing in my head as the album comes to an end. The emotion of this song feels like their "we did it" moment, their "look how far we've come" moment, their "if this is it, then we had one hell of a life" moment. I fucking love this album. It's so good. This is one of the most impressively made albums I've heard in a very long time. They bent genres and created new ones. They made all this amazing music unsigned too. Back to the roots, you can say. It's been a while since I've been actually perplexed by what I was listening to. This is the kind of album that makes people quit music because they know they can never make something like this. It's such an impressive 40 minutes. This album is an easy shoo-in for album of the year for me so far, and if I had to boil this album down to a single word, it would be proud. These three men went through so much. Their humble beginnings in friends' living rooms, to getting a genuine online buzz just off of their talent, to making some critically acclaimed mixtapes and EPs, all unsigned, to finally catching the right moment, signing and releasing their debut album. And when tragedy would fall upon the group, they did what they did best, create. And they created one of the most unique and impressive albums I have ever heard. The best way to describe this is post-rap. It's evolved past rap. There's no 808s, no hi-hats. It's just whatever the fuck they want, and that's rap. And that's just impressive that it works so well in this cohesive unit. I mentioned this in my other video as a prediction, but now I can say it with certainty. If by the time I get to Phoenix's Injury Reserve's last album, they sealed the deal. This album and this group are going to go down in history. Mark my words. Epilogue. Thank you for watching, everyone. Tell me your favorite track from By the Time I Get to Phoenix, because this is one of those albums where you need to talk about it, because there's just so much shit to discuss. Not too sure how long this video is gonna be, sort of making this out of a burst of creativity. Just needed to talk about this fucking thing somewhere. No credits for this video, but I will say if you want to support the band, you could buy this release on Bandcamp, buy some merch or what have you. See how I didn't say pick up the vinyl, cause that shit sold the fuck out, and your boy copped one, so be prepared for some salty sailors in my next vinyl update.
What's up, everyone? iPhone Jake here. Turns out they actually do have more vinyls on sale, but for a week, so that means you probably have like a day or two when this goes up to get it. So do that, and fuck me, I think I'm about to buy both.
And I don't want to be the band's booking manager or anything, but they're going on tour if you want to see them live. All I gotta say is good fucking luck dancing to anything on this record. I'm just gonna link their website as the master link to all the stuff below. Quick, gonna plug my shit, my music, my podcast, my Patreon will all be below. If you want to be a Patreon, you get early content, exclusive content, and you get your name at the end of the video for only 5 bit greens. Sounds like a pretty good deal, right? I think so. But yeah, everything I just mentioned will be linked below, and that's pretty much it. And remember, as long as you remember to call me when you get to Phoenix, you're all set. So thank you for watching, I appreciate it, and have a pleasant day. Cut it and print it. Jesse.